Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's discussion stream. I am sorry about yesterday. I attempted to live stream, but unfortunately YouTube has been acting up the past couple of weeks. But tonight we are here. I want to talk about a couple of different things that I found really interesting over the past couple of days. First of all, I want to talk about Mario Kart Tour actually being banned in Belgium, which I had discussed Mario Kart a couple of days ago, actually, and I kind of wanted to just do a follow-up on it. I wanted to discuss the Duke Nukem 3D composer actually suing a couple of entities in the gaming industry for a couple of reasons. We have Tencent, which actually acquired a major stock in yet another game company, which that is what Tencent has been doing over the past couple of months. That's not completely surprising. I wanted to discuss the Nintendo Switch Lite, and that actually being added to the lawsuit for the Joy-Con drifts. We were expecting that to kind of be fixed in the Switch Lite, I think, and a lot of people are very disappointed because unfortunately it is not. And Nintendo's going to have quite a big case on their hands. And I also wanted to discuss Atari. We've gotten a little bit more news on the Atari VCS, which it doesn't look promising, but it's still news nonetheless. So those are the topics for tonight. But before we start all that, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to the live stream. How are you all doing? Vera is such a hardworking individual. Good for her. Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Made it. Hello, Ricardo. How are you doing? Called it on the drift? I mean, I'm just gonna say it. I personally was kind of expecting the Switches to have problems, though I was hoping that they wouldn't. Just because it's people spending their hard-earned money on, something that costs over $200, but unfortunately, that is not the case. The case is not great, and we have to deal with what we have to deal with. But welcome everyone. Alright, so the first topic that I wanted to discuss was Mario Kart Tour being banned in Belgium due to loot boxes. Now, a couple of days ago in a video, I had actually discussed Mario Kart Tour and the problems surrounding the game, namely the problems with monetization. We know that Nintendo has had a very big problem in the past with monetization in games, especially in their mobile games. Nintendo goes all out with their mobile titles. They will monetize them in every way possible. And unfortunately for Mario Kart Tour, just to recap, one of the main problems was you could buy things like loot boxes for real money. You could buy real in-game currency with real money, and you could buy these loot boxes. There were characters in these loot boxes that even had a 0.3% chance of dropping, which is very low. But also, on top of that, what they did was they actually added in a subscription. So for $4.99 a month, you could purchase a subscription for Mario Kart Tour, which allowed you to have access to specific things, like specific characters and also specific racetracks, that is the only way that you could access them. And I thought this was greedy. When Mario Kart Tour came out, I don't think any of us really expected it to be groundbreaking. I don't think any of us expected it to be a full-fledged Mario Kart game. But it's still the fact that when a company like Nintendo releases a title like this, you would expect it to be good. You would expect it to at least be decent. Because it's the same standard with the AAA industry. Even if it is a mobile game, we have standards and we have expectations coming from large companies like Sony, like EA, like Nintendo. And that is not what we got. This game is definitely a very poor quality gameplay-wise, but just the way that they monetized it was awful. So Mario Kart Tour was actually banned in Belgium due to these reasons. I am referencing a One Angry Gamer article. If you want it, you can just ask in the chat for it. The article starts off with, "It shouldn't come as a surprise that mobile games rocking popular monikers and microtransactions can make monetary units like there's no tomorrow. And if an unknown or known company is behind this popular franchise on mobile, then you can bet money is around the corner, much like Nintendo's case with Mario Kart Tour." The company is putting in so much money via microtransactions from Mario Kart Tour that they can afford to lose an entire country and walk away unscathed. And that is actually true. So when the discussions of loot boxes started, let's look back even in March. Nintendo actually had to withdraw some of their titles from Belgium due to the loot boxes because their games they kind of relied on loot boxes. They are given the choice to remove the loot boxes or to keep them, and they decided before they were asked to remove the loot boxes because of the ban, they actually just did what they thought was best, and they actually just pulled the games out of the region in total. And those Nintendo games were Fire Emblem Heroes and Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. And that was actually back in the spring. The Belgian game, this article says, back in April of last year, the Belgian Gaming Commission began investigating loot boxes across several popular games and determined that the randomized rewards were in violation of the country's gambling legislation. The verdict resulted in the loot boxes being deemed gambling and therefore illegal, underscored by a prison sentence of up to 5 years and a fine up to £800,000 for those companies that fail to comply. So back then, Nintendo actually did decide, instead of being in trouble, receiving fines, and also being told that their games couldn't be sold, they decided to, of course, take the high road and remove the games themselves. So they had removed Fire Emblem Heroes and Animal Crossing Pocket Camp from Belgium. And we're just seeing that happen again, but it's not them removing them this time. They are actually receiving a ban. So, looking at it, a publication was picked up, and this info was reported. Nintendo's Mario Kart Tour was released for iOS and Android on Wednesday, and despite all of its success, there has been some controversy over its freemium model, which that is the problem with the game. It's a free game when you download it, yet you go into it and you are kind of obligated to pay. And it says that has already been reflected in its availability in some regions. According to the Brussels Time, the company has opted not to launch Mario Kart Tour in Belgium as loot boxes are prohibited there. Players must pay a $4.99 a month subscription to unlock all of the content. Now, I do want to point out, players do not have to purchase the $4.99 a month subscription. I do want to make that clear because you do not have to. You can play this game very casually without actually paying that subscription. But unfortunately, you lose out on racetracks, you lose out on characters, you just lose out on a lot of content. And that is my problem with this. If this title did not contain things that you could buy or like a way to monetize content, I wouldn't be as bothered by it. I am someone that thinks there is a level of acceptable with microtransactions in games. I think that if you are going to monetize your game, if you are just monetizing cosmetic items that do not actually affect gameplay, that do not have, let's look at costumes, that do not have any stats to them, that do not affect you in combat or in gameplay, or if content is not locked behind a paywall, I think that that is acceptable. And even so, we have to look at things like games expanding in DLC. Obviously, DLC, it's content locked behind a paywall, but you are usually getting 5-10 hours of content. You're getting the expansion, you're getting content, you're getting areas, you're getting whatever it may be, but it's in such a way that you know you are getting your $10 worth or your $20 worth. And unfortunately, that just isn't the case with Mario Kart Tour. It is a brand new game, and it is a mobile game that they are monetizing, and unfortunately, they just didn't do it properly. I think that if they had laid off on the loot boxes, and if they had just monetized the game with maybe like a $4.99 a month subscription, and maybe you got like a special skin for signing up, like every month, if you have this subscription, you get one free skin that's like exclusive. I think that that would have been an acceptable yet cool idea. Or if it's kind of drawing the line, but if they, for $4.99, they did put those racetracks behind the model, I still think that that would have been a little bit more acceptable if they did not have the loot boxes. I think the problem is when you add loot boxes in, everyone's already going to take a negative stance on your game. I mean, I downloaded the game. I unfortunately was part of the 10 million people on initial launch day that downloaded the game, but that is because I was honestly curious if the game was worth it. But when you are monetizing a brand new game that has very little content, it's not worth it. A $4.99 a month subscription plus having things like loot boxes is not acceptable, and unfortunately, Nintendo has never really nailed it with monetization, especially in mobile games. Nintendo has an awful past with monetization in mobile games and subscriptions. They've never nailed it. And I've stuck by Nintendo, obviously, within the past year and a half, 2 years, because they have vowed to not censor third-party titles, and I have been supporting them as a company. I have made my effort to support them and purchase more on their systems. I just don't think that I hate to say it this way, I am not as fazed with this because it is a mobile game. We've known for years now, with Nintendo trying to push their way into the mobile market, that this is how it is, this is how their business model is, but also this is how the mobile market is. Unfortunately, the mobile market, yes, it is untapped, I do feel, but it's untapped because companies just monetize things poorly. It's very minimum effort that they put into these games, and it's a huge return for them. I don't necessarily blame them, because they've done it in the past, and I really didn't expect more from a mobile game, but at the same time, I still did expect a little bit more because it is Nintendo, and I have so much hope and faith in Nintendo at this point that I just want one good company. The gaming industry has a lot of negativity in it right now, and surrounding it right now, especially with companies and how they act. And I was hoping for more, but at the same time, this is what I expected. I didn't expect them to do great with the game, but the game now is removed in Belgium. If you are a player from Belgium, unfortunately you cannot play this game, but you are not missing much. Unfortunately, this was not a title that was quality over quantity, so I mean, that's all there really is with this. I was expecting this with how Belgium has acted towards loot boxes and predatory monetization methods in games. You expected this. Every country, every region has their standards, you know. In North America, I expect violent video games to be accepted more than like a sexualized game or something like that. If you look at Germany, they have specific guidelines on content. If you look at Japan, in China, they have specific guidelines on content. And Belgium just does not accept, when something comes to monetization, they are very strict on, you know, their laws. So I was expecting this. It's not completely shocking that they have banned this and that it is removed in Belgium, but if you're a Belgian player, you really didn't miss much. Let me check chat. I'm not really excited, but I do give mobile games far more credit than they deserved 5 years ago. I definitely did too. I am someone that does not play many mobile games. I've never been much of a mobile gamer, though I do think that the market has potential. I just think that it's kind of companies' greedy areas. I'm just going to be honest, like, how many games on mobile are not greed fests and are not cash grabs? I kind of want to give companies a little bit of leeway, because if they can keep their consoles in check, and like, let's say we're talking about Nintendo, if they can keep their games on their first party games, let's say, in check with monetization, you kind of expect maybe for them in some specific places to be a little bit greedy. And that's just the mobile market. And I mean, I don't want the mobile market to be a shit fest, but that's kind of their gray area. And when you walk into playing mobile games, you do, unfortunately, kind of expect to see that. You expect to see the greed. You expect to see that area, and that content in that area. So, if you're a mobile player, I don't think it's worth $4.99 a month. You definitely could be paying $4.99 a month towards something like Apple Arcade. Obviously, it is not a Mario Kart game. There's Sonic Racing on there. Go play Sonic Racing. I mean, if you were really looking for a Mario Kart game, though, I feel as though you would go to your Nintendo Switch. You wouldn't really think twice about it. At least in my mind, if I want to play a Mario Kart game, I'm not going to pick up my mobile device and try to play it. Obviously, it would be nice to, and if you want to play this game, you still can for free. It's not like there is an initial cost to purchase the app and actually purchase access to the game. You can still casually play it, though from the footage that I've seen for the racetracks that you get and like the speed boosts that you get during the $4.99 a month races, it does look cool. Like, if you really like Mario Kart, spend the $4.99 for a month or two. I would never tell anyone not to purchase something in a game if they wanted to. If you want to support microtransactions, that is your right. I would never tell someone that they could not. Obviously, though, when you are supporting business models like that, you have to expect them to continue. And I'll be honest. I'll be honest. I've purchased loot boxes in one game, and I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of it. In Star Wars The Old Republic, the EA and BioWare MMO that came out in 2011, I'll admit, I've sunk a lot of money into their loot boxes. They're called hyper crates, and like you get like 30 packs. It's like a booster box in Magic. You get like 30 packs, and each one has like 5 items. It has like a companion gift, and it has like a skin, like a piece to an armor set, and I'll admit it. I was a gambler then. I was a high-rolling gambler. If I went back and looked at my account, besides like the past year, the past like 2 years, I really haven't put any money into the game besides the subscription. But if I go back and I look at all of the content I spent money on, because my account's like jacked up, you guys would see. I was a gambler. I was willing to play the gamble. But then again, I kind of do that in a sense with Magic the Gathering, but I still feel as though something like a trading card game and loot boxes are different, because in a trading card game, if you open a Magic the Gathering booster pack, you are guaranteed specific cards, specific rarities, things like that, but I'll admit it, I am a high roller when it comes to it. Vera and her gacha addictions, yes, I'm not proud of it. I've given EA and BioWare a lot of my money, but back then BioWare deserved it, to be fair. That's all I really wanted to talk about with Mario Kart Tour. And I also thought it was important to kind of compare the fact that Nintendo has pulled a lot of their games out of Belgium because of their laws with microtransactions at this point, so honestly, not that surprising, a little bit disappointing with what they did with Mario Kart Tour, but it is what it is. Yes, Drew, that is true. TCGs have an inherent value outside of the lottery nonsense. That is very true. Most games you cannot sell loot box content, which is a problem. So on to the second topic for the night, which is a white screen, everyone. It's a white screen. You love it, don't you? You love it, don't you? Okay, there we go. Sorry. Internet things. Ooh, a keyboard. Ooh, wait. Look at this pretty keyboard. Ooh, how much was that? No, I can't look at keyboards. I'm not playing the gambling game with keyboards either. I have like 4 keyboards. I don't need more. Or do I? Oh no. Marketing, guys. Marketing gets me. Good marketing works for me. Wait, my other article just disappeared? Hold on one second. My article just completely disappeared. PC Gamer, can you not kick out my articles for me? Thank you. I was gonna say, we're not at Tencent yet. Alright, so the next topic that I wanted to discuss, which is one that I was very shocked to hear about 2 days ago, is the Duke Nukem 3D composer is suing Randy Pitchford, specifically Randy Pitchford, Gearbox, and Valve. Now, just reading from the title, I was a little bit surprised that the 2 out of the 3 entities that are being sued here. Randy Pitchford, first of all, which, why would you sue specifically Randy Pitchford? Well, we find out why, but... And Valve. It's just very bizarre that both of those names would be kind of titled in a lawsuit. At least to me at first, it was a little bit surprising. But anyway, let's start reading. Bobby Prince claims his music was used in Duke Nukem 3D 20th Anniversary World Tour without permission. Composer Bobby Prince, who wrote music for Doom, Doom 2, Wolfenstein 3D, and Duke Nukem 3D, so quite a few of them, has filed a lawsuit against Gearbox Software, the company's chief executive, Randy Pitchford, and Valve, claiming that his music was used in 2016 shooter Duke Nukem 3D 20th Anniversary World Tour without his permission and without him receiving compensation. In a document submitted to the U.S. District Court, Eastern District of Tennessee, Prince's attorney described how 16 songs he wrote were used in 1997 shooter Duke Nukem 3D under an agreement with developer Apogee. Apogee has had a limited right to use Mr. Prince's music in Duke Nukem 3D in exchange for a royalty equal to $1 per unit sold. Prince had registered the copyrights for the songs. Gearbox purchased certain rights to the Duke Nukem games from Apogee in 2010. Prince claimed the company went on to use his music in Duke Nukem 3D 20th Anniversary World Tour, the 2016 update to the shooter, without his permission. Now, really quickly, let's look at the dates here. He's claiming that he isn't getting paid from something that was used back in 2016. 2016 is the date here. 3 years ago. Now, obviously, the contact that he has with these companies and with these, corporations, these entities, obviously this would have taken a lot of time, as you will read in a minute. But 3 years seems like a long time to wait to file something. I mean, it's October 2019. Seems a little bit off. The electronic files for the music within Duke Nukem 3D World Tour included text specifically stating that Mr. Prince owns the copyright to the music and has reserved all rights to the music's use, the court document read. Yet, Gearbox incorporated the music into the game without ever contacting Mr. Prince, without clearing the rights expressly mentioned in the electronic files. Furthermore, he claimed, okay, so this is where we're getting into why he's suing, why he's naming Randy Pitchford, Valve, and of course Gearbox. We know the Gearbox reason, obviously, but now, Prince claimed he contacted Randy Pitchford requesting royalties for the music in the 2016 game and was told he could be taken care of, but never received any money. Pitchford also refused to remove the music from the game, Prince's attorney said. Now, I understand, obviously, why he's naming Randy Pitchford at this point, because obviously, he did have contact with Randy Pitchford, and Randy Pitchford said one thing and did nothing. So it is understandable at this point. But we are getting into the Valve portion of this, which I'm questioning a little bit. Prince also contacted Valve, he claimed, I wonder if there's proof to that, regarding the distribution of the game on Steam. Valve ignored a takedown notice, thus waiving any immunity under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, and continued distributing infringing copies of the music despite knowing that Mr. Prince owned the copyrights in the music. Gearbox Software, Gearbox Publishing, Randy Pitchford, and Valve have been given 21 days to respond to the summons. Now, let's go with the Valve part first. I don't think Valve has anything to do with this. They are just a distributor. I also want to raise the question, does owning does owning a component of a game give you the right to issue a takedown for a whole game? Because we don't really see this happen very often. Usually by now, the person would complain, the company would just agree to something, so none of this happened. Does owning a component of a game give you the right to issue a takedown notice for the whole game for all of the content? That is a question that I raise, but I feel as though Valve would have looked into this. Like, Valve would have went through the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, and they would have known. Like, they probably were contacted by this person, and they probably covered all of their bases. So, I just don't particularly so I understand why he's saying that he's adding them to the list, because they ignored a takedown notice, but I just do not think, as far as I know, that owning one piece of content like a song or like a piece of music in a game gives you the right to issue a whole takedown notice for the title. We don't see it happen because most companies don't try to flaunt us law. I mean, yeah, understandable. Valve is absolutely liable here. Do you think so? Because that is a question that I had to raise. Obviously, it's very mixed lines here. This is a situation that we do not see happen very often, but I just feel as though Valve is a distribution. Do they really have any liability here? But it does look at this point, going through all of this, that yes, Randy Pitchford and Gearbox are in the wrong. I think that this artist, this creator, should be receiving his pay. He should be receiving his royalties completely. But I raised the question, okay, so between the past 3 years, from 2016 when it released to 2019, how recently did he contact the company? Did he contact the company when it released in 2016? Was it last year? Was it this year? Because I feel as though we would have heard about it. He would have said something publicly to try to get the company to listen to him. When a company is not listening to a larger entity, someone that works for them and whatnot, or someone that is trying to figure something out, usually they post about it, they say something about it. So I feel like we haven't heard about it. He's never talked about it, and this happened 3 years ago. So I just raised the question of when he actually contacted them. But I do think with Randy Pitchford telling him you'll get paid and then him never getting paid is wrong. It is awful, and I think that Gearbox is in the wrong. They should be paying him his royalties. There's not much to say here. I just think that Gearbox is in the wrong. Randy Pitchford is in the wrong. This person deserves to get paid, deserves their royalties. I just question the time period here, because we're talking about 3 years. It's a really long time period. I am questioning it. But again, I also am questioning the fact that, is Valve really liable, and are they a liable name in this case? Checking the chat. The thing is, regarding copyright laws, if a component of a product is violating copyright law, the whole product is considered in violation of said laws. So if Valve were notified and refused to comply, they're in violation of United States law. Interesting. Right. I wasn't sure if, because you own one portion of something, no matter how small the portion, could you file a takedown notice for the whole thing? It is kind of washy lines here, but Valve is the distributor. I mean, they're just listening to what Gearbox is saying. If Gearbox says leave the game up, they're going to leave the game up. The guy still deserves to get his cut. Yes, 100% agree, Morph. This guy deserves to get his cut. He deserves it. Royalties are royalties. I really hope that they get this worked out. Obviously, he has filed, some documents in regards to the case. I will be keeping an eye on this because I do want to see how it plays out, but I do think that Gearbox and Randy Pitchford are liable at this point, and this person just deserves to get, their royalties. They deserve to get paid for their content. Valve needs to be notified through legal channels, not an email, though. Well, that's what I was thinking, because when he said he contacted Valve, it says here that he just contacted Valve, and regarding the distribution of the game, and Valve ignored the takedown notice, but he's saying that it's waiving any rights, waiving any immunity under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act and continue distributing infringing copies. It's just a questionable zone, at least I would think. Yeah, it is kind of goofy, but that is the current U.S. copyright law in the United States. I actually bothered to look it up. I was trying to kind of look it up and skim through it, but I didn't. It's kind of one of those things where we don't see this happen a lot, and I couldn't really find any other examples of it happening in games. I'm sure that if I dug, I could. It wasn't an email. He sent the document to them via post. Oh. This is saying that, actually it just says Prince also contacted Valve. He claimed, which is kind of odd wording. He claimed. Did he really? Is there proof that he did? But yeah. It just says he contacted Valve, so I guess either way. I just feel as though maybe he would have said something months ago on social media, or years ago, because this happened years ago. Either way, he deserves his money. He's someone that created content. No one deserves to take those rights and those royalties away from him. This would be more common to find in the music industry. Right. I was going to look for comparisons. I will do that. So maybe next week during the talk stream, I can bring this back up and I can have some articles and like some comparisons to show to you guys. For sure. Are you a journalist, Rhett? I don't know. Rhett, are you secretly a journalist? Is there something that I should know here? Is there something that I should know? Wait. Are you really? The United States Postal Service has a record of delivery, according to Western Tennessee District Courts. Oh, okay. Well, there we go. We have it. He did contact. Well, we don't know what the contents of the letter were, which could leave up a little bit of debate, because who knows the wording that he used, if he threatened legal action, if he kind of made it sound like a nonchalant issue, like, oh yeah, just do it whenever you get the time, like, who knows. I love Duke Nukem, so it made me more effort to try and figure out what was going on. Well, there you go. But that's all we know right now with the Duke Nukem case. I will be following it, or the composer to Duke Nukem 3D. I will be following the case, and I will update you guys if we have any news or anything on it. And I will try to look up some, like, music examples, and I will bring them up on stream next week. Next, Tencent. Yes, Tencent is next. Who's excited for Tencent? We don't know if he sent the proper form. Right. That's ultimately what I question is, did he send them the proper paperwork? What was the conversation between them? Also, what was the tone set between the conversation? Because that could add a lot of context to it as well. If he did not send the proper DNA takedown form, Valve, yeah, I mean, who really knows? Which is another thing. There's a lot of questions we have here, not a lot of details, but he should get his money. Gearbox has their feet over the fire. Valve depends entirely on what he sent them. Right. Alright, so the next topic, DMCA, yeah, DMCA. The next topic that I wanted to discuss is another PC Gamer article. I've talked about Tencent a lot. You guys know this at this point. I've talked about Tencent quite a few times because they are very important to not only the gaming industry, but also, looking at like the movie industry. But Tencent has, over the past, I don't even know how long, since 2016 or so, 2015, 2016, they have been heavily purchasing large stakes in companies, in publishers, developers. I mean, they have purchased stakes in so many companies. I mean, let's look. Tencent stakes in gaming companies. Let's look really quickly because I am curious. I mean, they have stakes in Riot. I wasn't sure how much. They have Epic, Activision, Blizzard, Ubisoft, Paradox. I mean, they have stakes in so many companies, and even if they are not like large numbers, like 5%, 10%, some companies, they have such large numbers. I mean, now Tencent is actually set to become Funcom's largest shareholder. The massive Chinese company will soon own 29% of the Norwegian publisher. Norwegian publisher and developer Funcom, the outfit behind Conan Exiles, The Secret World, and an upcoming series of games based on Dune. Excited. Actually, maybe I shouldn't be now. Has announced that Chinese gaming giant Tencent will soon own a 29% share in their company. And in their official press release, Funcom states that Tencent is acquiring the share of the company currently held by the Norwegian firm KGJ, capital AS. That's what a name. And while the ink hasn't dried yet on this deal, it is far long enough to be officially declared. Obviously, it wouldn't be announced if it was not far enough along. Obviously. While a major power in the Chinese games industry, Tencent has been investing heavily in publishers and developers around the world. Last year, they became a majority shareholder in Path of Exile studio Grinding Gear Games. That name always gets me, I'm sorry. They own a large share in Epic Games, although Epic is keen to stress this does not put Tencent in charge, even though their stake does. And their investment in Ubisoft may have prevented a hostile takeover. They also have shares in Riot, Paradox, and Frontier. Like I've said a lot of times, they own a lot of shares in a lot of different companies. I mean, they own, if you look at a list, even just like 5% of specific companies, they have such a long list. Soon Tencent will buy more shares until companies have to comply with Tencent's demands, which could mean censorship. I'll get to that in a minute. The article continues on with, while this may mean a lot for the financial stability of companies like Funcom, it seems unlikely to have much effect on the company's short-term plans, which includes further expanding the survival sandbox Conan Exiles and a series of Dune games intended to be a tie-in to next year's film remake. Why are we remaking it? It's not going to be good. Anyway, Funcom obviously ran out of money. It's not hard to tell at this point. With their project, with the Dune game, or games, who even knows how many it will be, they obviously maybe shot too high and they are running out of money. It's pretty obvious. So they accepted a deal with Tencent. They got offered a decent deal from Tencent, and let's be honest, Tencent is keeping so many companies alive currently. They are huge investors in huge companies, and even for smaller companies, I would consider Funcom like a mid-size. I mean, at this point, like, they're not the largest, but they do have very notable games. They're keeping companies alive, and they do not have a bad track record with that. They have a good track record of keeping these publishers alive when they're low on money. But the problem here is that Tencent is a Chinese company, and we all know this. I've talked about this a lot, and they have very strict rules and regulations to follow for titles in their region in China, and we could see those restrictions translate to their work in titles that we consume in North America and in the West in general, and any other region, in every region that the game is released, honestly. We could see those restrictions be slowly implemented into our titles. And even looking at some companies that they own stakes in, look at Epic. They swear that Tencent does not affect their business at all, that Tencent does not affect any of their corporate decisions, and we know that's bullshit. We know that they do. It's pretty convenient that Tencent is a Chinese-owned company, Chinese-based company, and yet Epic does not allow any adult-themed content on their platform. It's pretty suspicious. It's pretty, this could be an awkward coincidence, but it seems like it's less of a coincidence and more of something that, obviously makes sense. And I just worry that this could translate to be bad. when they continuously buy stakes in these companies, we could see their rules and restrictions that they must follow continue on to titles that we consume and content that we consume. It's a hard thing to say because so many companies now are going different routes. Even looking at Epic, they don't allow adult-themed content on their platform. And we are seeing companies say that, and that's just the case. We have to consider that things are changing. The way that companies think are changing when you have something like social media where everyone can complain with just a couple clicks of a button and voice their opinions to you. People are being more careful, and companies are being more careful with what they allow on their platforms and what they don't. But I'm not going to say that this is bad, because in a way this is not bad because it is keeping publishers alive. But at the same time, we can see the problems that could arise from this and the things that could come out of this. I'm not going to say that it's happening, or that everything's drastically changing, because obviously it's not. But I feel as though not enough people care about Tencent and what Tencent means to the gaming industry now. And I want people to understand more why this is important, and I want people to understand more why Tencent isn't the best thing. When publishers and companies are being, sucked up by Tencent, that's not good. It's good for them. It's good that it's keeping them alive. I think that that's good. If they were at their last end and they could not survive, I'm not going to blame the company, the publisher, the developers for going that route. It is business. You need to keep your business alive, and I'm glad that they're keeping their business alive. But as an average consumer, we need to keep an eye on Tencent. We need to be aware of the things that are going on with Tencent in our media. And I just think it's an important name to remember. If you see Tencent, well, maybe you should think it over, Maybe you shouldn't go, oh, that's cool, bye. It's a little bit more important than what meets the eye. Tencent, I like the way you... Oh, no. Hello, Mundane. How are you doing? Guessing it's the gaming company share takes, huh? I do have the feeling that gamers, at least our informed gamers, know what Tencent is and what they stand for. A lot of people don't. I mean, I see people put up videos. I put up videos talking about Tencent, and a lot of people don't care. A lot of comments, like on my videos, are, what's Tencent? Who is Tencent? What? Where did they come from? Well, it's very important to know. Even if you're just an average gamer, I'm not saying obsess over it, I'm not saying watch every move that Tencent makes, but if you see Tencent buying up shares of companies, you just need to be a little bit more aware, and I think it's understandable why some people don't know. It's a Chinese-based company, we don't hear about them a lot, but it still is important to know. It's going to be called, wait, what? Why I was wrong and China is great for the industry. What? Agreed, companies have changed, sorta. Sure, it's about the money at the end of the day, but now it just seems like us against menacing dudes in suits. I mean, yeah, some companies are like that. Companies need to keep themselves alive. They are focused on business, and I'm not going to blame them for that. I just think that, maybe look for another route. You guys know what I mean. Informed gamers like us. I'm an informed gamer, everyone. You should put that on a t-shirt. I'm an informed gamer. But that's all I want to talk about in regards to Tencent. I just thought it was important to bring up. I'm going to continue to point out Tencent and buying stakes in publishers and developers because it is important. Fake game keys, G2A. Is that the, if not, G2A, so sorry, sponsor me. Actually don't, but I think you mean G2A. Tencent is a Chinese-based company with the way that China is right now, it's not fake news. Yeah, that one, yes, G2A. G2A, ladies and gentlemen. They're another company. If you hear about them, run the other way. I'm sorry, it's just... Anyway. Yeah, G2A is still a thing. G2A still exists. And I'm gonna say, unfortunately. The next topic of discussion, which is the second to last, Yep, G2A, yep, more scumbags, yep. Is the Nintendo Switch Lite. When things load. The loading is real tonight. I have been following the Nintendo Joy-Con drift lawsuit for a long time because I am an owner of a Switch. I love my Nintendo Switch. I think that my Nintendo Switch is great. It's kind of my baby at this point. I'm obsessed with it. But Nintendo has been following a lot of problems with the Switch, just because of some of the hardware problems and the tech problems that have surrounded it. But yeah, there's been a lawsuit for the Joy-Con drift. I think a lot of us know that. But the Nintendo Switch Lite has actually been added to that lawsuit because, if we can all guess, the Lite is having drifting problems, just like the base model. The Nintendo Switch Lite has been added to the ongoing class action lawsuit against Nintendo over the analog stick's drifting issue. In addition, this lawsuit now exposes why the drifting is occurring. In case you missed our prior reports, the original Nintendo Switch's Joy-Cons had issues with drifting when the joystick remains untouched, yet input is still registered. This resulted in a class action lawsuit. Reports suggested Nintendo even began repairing Joy-Cons for free mere days after the lawsuit became public knowledge. This is true. Nintendo has been replacing repairing the Joy-Cons for free if you send in your Nintendo Switch. They have been doing that since the lawsuit. I thought it was even a little bit before the lawsuit when this really got out of hand and everyone was talking about it, though they're correcting me and saying it was days after. When the new Nintendo Switch Lite was released with integrated Joy-Cons, many were concerned if it would have the same issues. Third-party examination showed the analog sticks were the same as the original. And if you go to YouTube, if you look it up, you can see people demonstrating that their brand new Switch Lites are having drifting issues. If you go on social media, if you go to Nintendo's, forums, a lot of people are having issues with the Lite already, and the Lite hasn't even been out very long. The Lite just released very recently, and it's continuing. We kind of expected it to be a little bit better. I personally was thinking that the Nintendo Switch Lites would be fixed, that this wouldn't have been a problem, but we have to look at the time that it took between the lawsuit to the release of the Lite, and it kind of, the time doesn't match up. They wouldn't have been able to switch what they were doing, the parts they were using that fast. I personally think that if they were using the same Joy-Cons like they are, I think that what they should have done is held back the Lite a couple of months. But we know why they wouldn't want to do that. They didn't want to do that because it is holidays, baby. They are going to be making so much money at holiday time that they probably figured they would take the losses for the broken Joy-Cons and the drifting issues rather than give up that sweet, sweet holiday pay. Now, Polygon reports that they have obtained an amended version of the lawsuit. It says, this is a class action lawsuit brought against Nintendo by plaintiffs on behalf of themselves and similarly situated consumers who purchased Nintendo Switch game systems, including the original Nintendo Switch and the new Nintendo Switch Lite, as well as the standalone Joy-Con controllers. This is a problem. Now, this isn't the first time that something like this, a big problem, has happened. I mean, if we look at the first, well, not the first Xbox, if we look at the first generation of Xbox, say 360s, they had the problem with the red ring of death. I think that if you know anything about consoles, you kind of know what the red ring of death is. And the red ring of death situation happened with Microsoft. I mean, they had to institute a program where even if your console was out of warranty, even if it was 5 years out of warranty or whatever the time frame may be, they had to replace it. They instituted that, and they took huge losses. I mean, they lost so much money from that, but look at how much money they made from the consoles. And Nintendo needs to be doing the same thing. I think with the Switch, the base model, and even the Switch Lite, Nintendo of America at least has been replacing Switches when you send them in. They will fix the Joy-Con problems. They have been fixing them, like it says, even since a few days after the lawsuit was filed and it became public knowledge. But they're going to have to continue doing that, and they are going to have to open that up for the Switch Lites. Right now, you cannot send in your Switch Lite and have it repaired, but I definitely think that they are going to have to do that very soon. They are going to have to amend this problem. And I don't expect them to take these off the market or anything. It's the holidays. They are going into some of their best sales of the year, guaranteed, and they know that these systems are going to sell. A new Switch Lite is going to sell because it is a bit cheaper. It is a good model, besides the Joy-Con problem, and they know that they're going to make their money. Even if everyone sends their Switches back and they have to repair them, they know that not everyone is going to do that. But even if so, they know that they'd made money on them. They know that the profit is too high to take them off the market and kind of reject everyone from owning them. They're not going to stop their sales inevitably. 360 ship now, fix later was the model, right? Yes, that was the model that we're discussing. But yeah, the Red Ring of Death. Microsoft went through the same thing. I kind of expected this to not happen again. After Microsoft set that example, you would kind of expect that to not happen again, but problems happen. When you are mass producing an item like this, problems are going to appear. I don't necessarily blame Nintendo in a way, because they couldn't have predicted, well, this is going to break in approximately 3 months, 2 days, and 1 hour once you buy it. You can't really blame them as long as they are offering a way to get it fixed and you can send it in for free and receive a fixed product. I think it's okay. I just think that they need to amend the problem and open up the returns for the Switch Lite. Obviously, if you bought your Switch Lite, there's a warranty on it, but I just still think that it's important that they open that up. So in 5 years down the line, or 3 years, however long, if you buy a Switch Lite and it drifts on you, you can have it replaced. I think it is important. Ultimately, how far the lawsuit will go, I'm not sure, but it will be interesting to see what happens with the Switch Lite. Like I said, when in 1 or 2 years down the line, when they start breaking and they start having, a majority of them have the drifting problem. I think Nintendo is doing what they can right now with allowing you to send it back for free and repairing it, but they need to open that up to Switch Lite owners as well. Hopefully they do that soon. Sony is guilty. Yeah, Sony is guilty too. I'm not saying that they're not. I was just using the Red Ring of Death because I feel like so many people know about that, but you can't really blame the companies because they don't know that these things are going to happen. It's unfortunate that it did happen. But as long as they kind of give you a situation and they amend that problem, they fix it, I think that there's only so much of a level of angry you can be at them. Because they're doing their best. They're not just going to recall them all and send you back a brand new one. Obviously, that's not going to happen. You have to start the process of sending it back yourself. I'm not partially interested in playing the Switch, but God, do port them games over to PC. That would be nice. I personally love my Switch. I have a base model of the Switch, and I don't have drifting problems with mine. Please make sure that I don't. But I've never had problems with my Switch, and I love my Nintendo Switch. Honestly, if anyone was trying to buy into a system, I would say just go for the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo exclusives are phenomenal. The Switch itself is so versatile. You can play it in handheld, you can play it on the TV. Obviously, some games are downgraded visually, which is unfortunate, but I feel like if you had a gaming PC and a console, buy a Nintendo Switch. It is the best combination. If I had to get rid of everything else, I would pick the gaming PC and just my Nintendo Switch. I think that they're fantastic. But yeah, we'll have to see how this lawsuit goes. I'm honestly not sure how far it will go, but it is very important. If you bought a Switch Lite, then you find it important, and I find it important too that this is happening. Love your Switch. So I love my Nintendo Switch. I think that the Switch is great. I think it is worth the money, and I think that the exclusive games on it are chef's kiss. Nintendo should send me a Switch. You should just buy a Switch. You should just buy a Switch. Anyway, the last article and the last topic I wanted to discuss for the night. The Atari VCS. I'm so hyped for this to come out. Totally. If it comes out. Anyway, Atari Antstream Arcade to bring thousands of retro games to the Atari VCS console. I'm sorry, this is one of the best articles I could find that provided me information. It's by VentureBeat Dean Takahashi, the Cuphead guy. Please don't hate me, you guys. I'm doing my best here. Atari revealed today, this was 2 days ago, that Antstream Arcade will bring thousands of retro games to the Atari VCS console when the system launches in March 2020. Now, there's been a lot surrounding the Atari VCS. If you guys want, like, a full video with me going through, like, the whole life of the Atari VCS and, like, everything recently that's happened with it, too, please let me know. I would be willing to do that if there is interest. But the system is supposed to release in March 2020, and just a couple of days ago, they showed us a picture of the pre-production board, just so we can all be clear on that. It was pretty janky too. The Atari VCS will sell for $250 as a modern Linux-based game console that can play a lot of classic retro games. It's one of the big moves that New York-based Atari is making to revive the Atari brand name for mainstream consumers, and Atari is making sure that they will have more than enough content for players, said the chief operating officer at Atari. I think that I love Atari. I'm gonna be honest, I've loved Atari in the past. Maybe not now, but Atari definitely is like one of those names that when I hear Atari, I spin my head. I instantly pay attention to it. It always grabs my attention. I just have nostalgia for Atari, honestly. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I do. But I've always been very skeptical of the VCS. I've talked about the VCS twice now, and I'm so skeptical on it. I think that, yes, it looks cool. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to put that baby on a shelf. But we don't have a lot of the information that we need on it. So the partnership with Antstream Arcade will enable an enhanced and exclusive Atari edition of Antstream's gaming service to the upcoming Atari VCS home gaming and entertainment system. We've been working on this for a while with a number of different initiatives for content. We made a splash about the capabilities for our sandbox mode, which is leveraging the side of the box as the multimedia. That is a multimedia PC. The exclusive Atari VCS edition of Antstream Arcade unlocks an instantly accessible collection of classic video game titles. In addition to an existing library of 2,000 plus officially licensed games, the exclusive Antstream Arcade Atari VCS, the AAA VCS app will include the largest collection of Atari games available on demand. You get a 30-day free trial to this with a subscription option available for $10 a month or $8 a month for a yearly subscription. The VCS has not launched yet. The VCS, we do not know close to anything about this. The VCS at this point, I'm skeptical of, and I think a lot of people are skeptical about it. We know so little on it, so little of the titles, of the hardware, of what it's going to be. They are already telling you can buy a subscription service. We do not even know the types of games that this will play. We have no clue. And yet they are already saying, well, we're going to sell you a subscription service. And the problem is that we know so little about this. We do not even know the price that games are going to be. We do not know the variation of games that this is going to have. We have no clue who this is even targeted to. Who is the targeted audience for this product? And they are already trying to sell you a subscription service. I think that way too many companies right now are trying to launch a subscription service. If, let's say, the Atari VCS is real, it's fantastic, it's wonderful, it's amazing, it's beautiful, it's perfect. Everyone in the world owns one. I think that, let's look at the price. I don't think $10 a month or $8 a month for a yearly subscription is a bad price. I don't think that it's bad, but you cannot tell us that you're already selling us a subscription service when we know nothing about this console or what its content is going to be. Sounds like an ooh yeah to me. Ooh yeah, boy, it does. It's so disappointing. The VCS looks cool. It's got that interesting factor, but they have not given us enough substance for me to trust this. Especially the people that, like, were so hyped for this and, like, excited to buy it day one. You know, I'm sorry. This doesn't seem very, it doesn't seem very real to me. It will be the titles will be compatible with the Atari VCS Classic joystick and the Atari VCS Modern controller, including rumble and LED lighting effects. Well, if it's fake, then what does the LED lighting effects matter? I'm sorry. I don't want to say that this is fake, but I'm 90-10 right now. Enhanced game editions, sorry, read that backwards. With new functionality such as multiplayer and pure, unmodified versions of classic Atari games will be available. At this point, they are trying to market this as like a home console, like something that everyone can play, like your kids, you, if you have nostalgia for Atari. I just do not think that we know anything about this, and trying to sell your consumers a subscription service already when they know nothing about the content that will be on this platform is a bad way to go. I think that people, if you look, they have not given anyone an update in months of the Atari VCS. People were begging for them to give an update, and I feel like the update that they gave was just scrambled together, like they didn't have anything better to say. And when they're sharing pictures of a pre-production board 6 months or so before it is supposed to launch, that is not a good sign. They have not even put anything into production yet. I think that if the VCS is real, we are not going to see this until like August of next year. It is going to be almost a full year until we see this, even though the targeted date for it to release is March 2020. I'm just very hesitant so far. If you guys have faith in the Atari VCS, please let me know. I would love to have faith in this. I have faith in television console coming out soon. I have faith in that. I just do not have faith in the VCS. I've just seen no evidence that proves to me it's real, or that I would trust it. I would trust putting money into it. What does VCS stand for? I was trying to come up with something like a quip, but damn it, I can't figure anything out. I can't figure out like a sassy quip to come up with. Hello Cinder, how are you doing? I hope that you're having a very good night. All kids 8 to 18 now want nowadays is a console that looks like what their dads had when they were 5. Oh yeah, that's what all the kids want these days. Even though 90% of them probably don't even know what a joystick is. I mean, they're obviously trying to sell this to the people that have nostalgia for Atari platforms that would buy it and say, oh, I want it, but I'm going to use my kids as an excuse. That's obviously who they're marketing this towards. Vehicle communication scanner. Damn it, Morph, you beat me. That's a good one. Ooh, that's a good one. I'm good with my Genesis Mini. And you also have to consider, this is going to be expensive. It is going to be $250 to $500 with a $60 controller, like a $50 joystick. I mean, this is not like a cheap mini console. I think that the mini consoles have been really good, and I think that some of them have sold amazing and some of them have sold bad. But I think that this is like taking the mini game to a whole nother level, but it's not going to work because they're just trying to feed off of nostalgia, but I don't think it's going to work for them. Ultimately, if this turns out to be real and great, I will be so happy. But all we can do is wait, because time will tell. Vera is a boomer in a millennial's body. I'm not a millennial, but yeah, I'm not a millennial. Atari Vera can't stand yet? Yeah, I mean, it's true. Vera can't stand you. I suggest you all watch Spawnwave. Yeah, yes. Yes. Please, go and watch Spawnwave's video on the VCS. He's put up quite a few videos on the VCS. I think that he has put up some amazing content for the VCS. Definitely go look up Spawnwave if you guys don't know who he is. He's great. Go and subscribe. I'm shilling for Spawnwave, but definitely he really just goes so in depth with the VCS. Like, looking at the board, he talks about it. I mean, he has some really good stances on it. He's also pulled apart, like, Nintendo Switch Lites on his channel and stuff. He does a lot of hardware stuff, which is really neat. I would love to do that type of stuff, but I'm not going to rip apart a $200 console. But yeah, he goes in really good depth with the conversation. But that's all that I really wanted to talk about tonight, you guys. The topics, you know, the lawsuit, Tencent, the Nintendo Switch Lite, Atari, and also Mario, Kart Tour. But I will stick around and stream for a couple more minutes in case you guys want to chat before the end of stream. But yeah, that's all that I really had to talk about for topics tonight. Isn't Atari that awful console that caused the video game crash? No, the ET game did that. Thanks for this fun stream. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. If you guys are not already, please consider supporting me via Patreon. It is the first of the month. It is the best time to support via Patreon. I have $1 tiers. Also, make sure to join our Discord, as well as follow me on Twitter. All that fun stuff. He covers the picture they released recently of the motherboard. Yes, you are correct. I should have said that at the beginning to go and watch his video, because he really goes in depth with a lot of that stuff. But he's definitely a good source to look at and to go to when something of hardware is released or they're discussing things like hardware. He's definitely a great source to go to. He's the person that I actually go to, like, when I want to see things like that, like consoles being ripped apart, hardware being ripped apart. He's great at that stuff. If Vera isn't a millennial, I'm from the greatest generation. Hey guys, I am not a millennial. I am Generation Z. I am 3 years off from being a millennial. I am not a millennial. Generation Z is the demographic after the millennials. Researchers typically use the mid-1990s to early 2000s as birth years. I am not a millennial. Brett. Got you. Caught you. Vera wasn't even around for pre-dead Avril. What's your favorite Nintendo character? Ooh. That's a good question that I would actually need to think about. My favorite Nintendo character. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Wait, she's even younger than thought. I am turning 21 in 25 days. The day after Modern Warfare releases, I have a birthday, and I will be turning 21. Very fun. She's like 12 years old. Yes, I'm 12 years old, everyone. I would like you all to know that I'm 12. Wario? Who would pick Wario? What kind of answer is that? Is there like a list of... I want to look up a list of best Nintendo characters and then find some like awful article, like some hot take from like writers. I don't know. Let me look. Because I have a couple of runners up. Who would it be? I like Pauline. She's pretty feisty. From Odyssey. She's pretty... kind of into it. I don't know. I don't know who my favorite Nintendo character would be. I feel like everyone's gonna say, like, Mario, or Yoshi, or, like, Donkey Kong, or Zelda. Like, why not? Like, I'm kind of into Bowser, to be honest. Like, to be one. I don't know who else, like, I don't know who would be, like, my number one. But that's definitely a question I will consider answering next live stream. So come back next week, I'll have an answer for you. Women these days don't get upset and slap you when you ask their age. Yeah, that's the millennials. Fucking millennials. I'm sorry. Link is the best. Is Link really the best, though? Is Link really the best? I mean, Bayonetta's, you know, I mean, we've had Bayonetta games published by Nintendo, so she's a Nintendo character. Samus? You know, yes. That's also a good one, but not my favorite. Platinum Games, but we've had Bayonetta published by Nintendo, so she wouldn't be considered a Nintendo character? Really? Are you talking about first-party Nintendo games? Well, yeah, it is Platinum Games, but Nintendo. Third-party characters? That doesn't count? Oh, shit. Damn it. You getting rid of my waifu? Alright. Yeah. Alright. Okay, fair enough. I thought we could count third parties. Okay, alright. Captain Falcon? Who doesn't love a good Falcon? Alright, you guys. I am going to end the live stream here. Thank you guys so much for hanging out the past hour and a half. I very much so appreciate it. I hope that you enjoyed the live stream. Next week on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern will be the next discussion stream per usual. Next live stream, though, will be Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. I am going to be playing Magic the Gathering Arena. Since Throne of Eldraine is out now, I do want to play it. Some packs to open, some new deck lists to go after. And then this weekend, I will be playing Code Vein again. But, if you guys are not already, please consider supporting the channel via Patreon. I have $1 tiers and higher tiers if you want to support. I also have Twitter, so follow me there if you are not already. And also, feel free to join the Discord if you want to just hang out and chat. It is one of the best ways to support the channel is just hanging out with us, and you can give me, feedback on the content that I make and whatnot, and really join the community. But thank you guys so much for hanging out the past couple of hours. I very much so appreciate it. I will see you guys again on Thursday for the next live stream or the next discussion stream on Monday. Have a fantastic night, everybody.